Okay, so we are on a new website that I have found today called How Stuff Works, right? And this looks brilliant, I have to say. It looks really difficult. We're going to have a look at 35 questions related to some very common but fairly complicated high-level phrases in English. So, let's have a look at how this quiz is going to work. It says Advanced Common Phrases Quiz for a High IQ. So we'll see how we get on. I very much doubt that anybody is going to get 35 out of 35 here. If you do, then you've got a very good knowledge of common phrases in the English language. Common phrases, but I have to say they're quite difficult. Let's take a look at what it says about the quiz. It says, well, about this quiz. Ain't the English language grand? Not only is it packed full of adjectives and verbs that describe a whole galaxy of different activities, but it also contains some of the most inventive common phrases to ever find their way into our vernacular. From the quaint and charming to the truly cutting, it's tough to get through the day without using one of these advanced common phrases that infuse our daily discourse. Read more. Why not? Read less. Let's just start the quiz, I think. And here we have a man holding a bird in his hand. So that's a clue. Let's have a look at the question. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. It's a common saying, but what does it mean? I think every language probably has a version of this. I know we have something similar here in Spain. So let's look at the four options. What does this mean? Be content with what you have rather than risking everything to get more. Hold on tight to your birds, or else they will fly away. Bushes are bad places to store birds. Oh, they're comedians, these people. Don't squeeze your birds too tightly, or they might suffocate, like in Of Mice and Men, right? Which applied to mice and, unfortunately, to birds, as in women. For those of you, spoiler alert, if you haven't read Of Mice and Men. Should have said spoiler alert before I said what I said. But there you go. So, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. I think that's fairly obvious. It's an easy one to get started. If you have one in your hand, it's way more valuable than the two in the bush over there that you can't necessarily guarantee that you will catch. So it's to be content with what you have rather than risking everything, I would say. Okay? So, we have one correct answer, and we will scroll to the next question. So, what does it say here? We've got two scared people, a couple perhaps, watching a film in the cinema, and it says, okay, it means to prepare yourself for something unpleasant. What is the common phrase? So, we've got four options again. Preparing yourself for something unpleasant. What is a common phrase? A countenance more in sorrow than in anger. The buck stops here. The writing is on the wall. A camera doesn't lie. Now, there are some very interesting expressions there. Now, a countenance more in sorrow than in anger, I think, is quite a literal phrase. Countenance is your outward appearance, right? The way you're behaving, what your behavior says about how you're feeling. More in sorrow than in anger. So this, I think, is to do with when you've had some bad news, something bad has happened to you, and your outward reaction is to look sad rather than angry. So it's just a literal expression. A countenance more in sorrow than in anger. He looks sad, more sad than angry, basically. The buck stops here. This one's a really interesting one. It's an expression that comes from poker, from the card game poker. And it was to do with, I don't know because I don't play poker, but I think that they passed a counter, like a counter or a coin or something, round to a player when it was their turn to deal the cards. And if they didn't want to deal the cards, they could pass the book on to another player. And that became, I suppose, a euphemism for passing on the blame or the responsibility for something. And it became very popular when Harry S. Truman, the US president, said it in his, I think it was his inauguration speech. He said, "The buck stops here. I'm not going to pass the blame or the responsibility for my decisions onto anybody else. I am the maximum person. I am the highest level of responsibility. I take the blame for my decisions," right? And I think Boris Johnson said it when he became Prime Minister, and Joe Biden said something like that when they withdrew the troops from Afghanistan, but he probably said it wrong. In fact, I think he did. I think he said, "The buck stops with me." But anyway, it's the same meaning. The writing is on the wall. Now, the writing is on the wall means that it's obvious what is going to happen. I don't know where this phrase comes from. I wonder if anyone else does. Leave a comment if you do. The writing is on the wall means that it's an omen. Something bad is going to happen, right? So prepare yourself for something unpleasant. The writing's on the wall. They're going to fire you. You're going to be evicted. You know, you're going to die. I don't know, something horrible. A camera doesn't lie. I think, again, that's fairly literal, that phrase. And it means that you know, an eyewitness can lie. They can make mistakes about what they've seen. Leading questions, Barnum statements can lead people to think they had seen something that perhaps they didn't. The camera doesn't lie, though. That shows you the bare truth, right? So I think the writing is on the wall, is what I would go with. And we've got it right. Excellent. Okay, here we have a picture of some mud or something. I don't know what this is going to be. He says, "If I tell you that your name is Mud, what am I trying to say?" I think you can probably guess this, right? Your name is Mud, right? You have a filthy mind. You are a disgrace. You have a terrible family name. You are down to earth. Now, obviously this sounds very negative, right? Because mud isn't something that people like to get on them, right? It's you're tarnished, you're stained if you have mud on your clothes, on your shoes or something. So if I tell you that your name is Mud, you have a filthy mind. Filthy mind, that's some sort of, you know, sexual connotation, basically. You know, you've got a dirty mind. You are a disgrace. You are an embarrassment. You know, you have a bad reputation, or you bring a bad reputation to others. You're a disgrace to this family. That sounds more like the context I would use your name is Mud in. You have a terrible family name. The name itself is just terrible. No, maybe your family has a bad reputation. Could be, possibly. But just that you have a terrible name, I don't know about that. You are down to earth. No, being down to earth is a good thing. It means that you are in touch with the common man, you know. We often talk about celebrities and, I don't know, royals and things being, or politicians being down to earth. It's a quality that we like about people, that they're not up in the clouds. They're not, they don't behave as though they are above us. They don't look over their shoulder at us, right? They're very down to earth. So I think I would go with you are a disgrace here. Yeah, excellent. And they give us a little explanation here that I haven't been looking at. It says, the phrase, your name is Mud, is used to refer to someone who has disgraced, embarrassed, or ostracized themselves. It is a derogatory common phrase that has been used for centuries. Okay, let's move on. So we can see a man here who looks somewhat distressed. Let's have a look at the question. It says, he might look harmless, but he's actually very dangerous. What common phrase is used to convey this? I think I can guess it, to be honest. He looks harmless, he looks innocuous, right? But he is actually quite dangerous. He's a tempest in a teapot. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He takes the mickey. He is the tail wagging the dog. I think most people will know this one, even if it's just through instinct. I think you can probably guess it, no? Right. But a tempest in a teapot, I don't think we would call a person a tempest in a teapot. A tempest in a teapot, a tempest is a storm. Obviously, having a storm in a teapot isn't really possible, is it? I mean, a tempest, a storm is obviously a great event. It's something absolutely devastating that can destroy homes and whatnot. But if it's contained within a teapot, I mean, well, if there's a tempest in a teapot, maybe the tea will get stirred up a bit too much, but really nothing else will happen. Another expression here would be, perhaps, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. So it's much ado about nothing. It's another expression. It's not really as important as people are making it out to be. Very topical. Anyway, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Yeah, well, I think this is a children's story, isn't it? About a wolf that dresses himself up as a sheep in order to eat the sheep, right? So he makes himself look like a harmless, innocuous lamb, and then proceeds to murder the sheep. Anyway, he takes the mickey. I don't know where this expression comes from. He takes the mickey means that he's not taking something seriously, and perhaps is even taking advantage of someone. If I'm taking the mickey out of someone, I'm just pulling their leg. I'm joking with them. I'm saying things to them that are perhaps derogatory, but in order to get a laugh. You know, it's nothing too big. If you take the mickey at work, for example, it might mean that you're a bit lazy. You know, you another expression would be taking the piss, which is a bit stronger, but people definitely say that very often. Here's the tail wagging the dog. Yeah, so we might use this in, for example, I don't know, maybe a political leader. You might have someone like, say, Joe Biden, where people might accuse him of being controlled by some lesser member of the US government. People might say Kamala Harris is the tail wagging the dog or something like that. But it's often yes, when a perceptibly smaller or less important person is in fact the person that's running things, that's running the show, right? So yeah, the tail wagging the dog. Obviously, a dog wags its tail. But if the tail wags the dog, it's like the tail is in control of the dog, isn't it? Yeah, obviously this one, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Fairly easy one, that one. Okay, let's move on. And, okay. Okay, let's have a look. We can see a leopard in a tree here. I think I know what this one's going to be about. But we'll find out. It says, a leopard cannot change its spots. What does this phrase mean? I think, you can probably guess it, right? A leopard cannot change its spots. You might have a similar phrase in your own language. But let's have a look at the four options. It says someone cannot change their character. Big cats are not to be messed with. I think that's true, but I don't think that's what it means. Leopards shouldn't be mistaken for house cats. Well, I think that's, again, good advice. Humans should try to be more like leopards. No, I think, again, fairly simple one here. Someone can't change their character. Which, I think that's probably true. You can change certain aspects of your behaviour, but your basic character is probably going to be quite stable throughout your life, isn't it? For most people. So, yeah, someone can't change their character. A leopard doesn't change its spots, or can't change its spots, as it says here. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so we can see a woman having a good time at a party here. What could this be about? I don't know. It says, when you're enthusiastic to attend a party or event, you'll be there with these on. What are they? Smiles, pants, charms, bells. So, what do we say? Really, hopefully you're going to the party with pants on. Pants, depending on where you're from, can mean one thing or another. For me, it means underwear. And charms, with charms on. You're going to be wearing charms. Lucky Charms, a rabbit's foot, a horseshoe, maybe. Smiles on, with smiles on. No, the expression is I'll be there with bells on. It means you're going to be there enthusiastically, right? And I've been looking up where this phrase comes from, and it's something to do with wagon drivers in the 18th, 19th century. And wagon drivers turning up at the place with bells on was for them a source of pride or something. They were very proud of their bells. Anyway, the expression is with bells on, definitely. And it says, if you are super excited about an event or party you'll be attending with bells on. This simple statement goes back centuries and is still used to indicate excitement and enthusiasm. So that doesn't really help us with our origin story here. But anyway, let's move on. We can see a woman looking happy in front of a stained glass window. It looks like she's at church. She's reading a hymn book or something. Oh, well, here we go. It says, on a what and a prayer, what word goes in the blank? Right, okay, so it's just an expression. On a something and a prayer. So, Bon Jovi fans? No. What am I talking about? No, it's not a Bon Jovi song. On a kiss and a prayer, on a wing and a prayer, on a wish and a prayer, on a thought and a prayer. So this is quite an interesting origin story. The expression is to do with aeroplanes in the Second World War, apparently. And I've heard this all my life. I never really knew where it came from. But yeah, we say on a wing and a prayer. And apparently it's something to do with damaged aircrafts and their partners in the military, the other soldiers, praying for the planes to come back. Even if they were damaged, they communicate over radio that their plane was severely damaged. And there's a line in a film, apparently in a John Wayne film, The Flying Tigers, where he says she's coming home on one wing and a prayer. And basically one wing was damaged and it was relying on the other wing and people praying for it to get back, right? So yeah, there we go. That's the story there. Okay, we can see a man walking, two lines, a red one, a black one. What's this? I don't know. When you pursue something senselessly, you're going on this. What is it? I don't know, to be honest. You're pursuing something senselessly, so you're chasing something on bad guidance. I don't know. What's the expression? You're going on this. You're going on a day at the races, a run of the mill, a wild goose chase, a summer picnic. Right. Okay, so what are you going on? Are you going on a day at the races? I don't actually know what a day at the races is. What's that, like a day out or something? Can someone comment on that? Because I can't be bothered to look it up. I've heard the expression a day at the races, but I've never really known what it means. I think it's an expression, and it kind of sounds like a fun day out, right? A summer picnic, I don't think that's an expression. I think that's just a picnic in the summer, surely. Is that an expression? Sounds like something nice again, doesn't it? Like a day off, like a day at the races. A day at the races, you'd go to see the horse racing or the greyhound racing. No? If something is a run of the mill, I don't think we ever say something is run of the mill. We say something is run of the mill. No, am I right about that? I guess we use it kind of like an adjective expression. We say something is a run of the mill event or something like that. So, run of the mill. A mill is obviously like a wheel that goes round in a river or in the wind. No, like propellers or watermill or windmill. And obviously that's very ordinary. The movement of the mill is very ordinary. No, it's just an everyday run-of-the-mill event, occurrence, right? But if you're chasing something senselessly or pursuing something senselessly, you're on a wild goose chase. I suppose trying to catch a goose is probably quite hard work. They can run, they can fly, they bite you. They're horrible things, aren't they? Geese. So yeah, you're going on a wild goose chase if you're pursuing something senselessly. We'll often use it in talking of mills, sort of quixotic adventures. You know, you're trying to get something that's unattainable. It says a wild goose chase refers to a pointless endeavour. Very good. Anyone who has ever encountered wild geese. Who's ever encountered wild geese? When is this? 1743. Knows that it's pointless to chase them. So this common phrase actually makes a lot of sense. It's pointless to chase wild geese. Stop chasing those wild geese, everyone, for God's sake. Anyway, let's move on. Here we have a fairly young woman looking after an old man. Or I don't know. Yes, he's in a wheelchair. So what's this? I don't know. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Aha, yes. So, a friend in need is a friend indeed. What does this mean? True friends never really need you. Someone who helps out in a tough time is a reliable friend. All friends will be in need at least once a year. Some friends need you more than others do. Okay. So this phrase, when I was younger, often confused me because I would always think that what they meant is a friend who is in need, right? So a friend who is in a bad situation is a good friend. So I thought, how does that work? Does that mean that people, when they need you, they come crawling back to you and you say, no, get away, I warned you, you were a fair weather friend, you know? But no, it means a friend when you are in need is a friend indeed. So if you have a friend when you are in a bad situation, then that is someone you can trust and someone that is a real friend, right? A friend indeed, a real friend. So I think the correct option here is someone who helps you in a tough time is a reliable friend, right? Yeah, right. Let's move on. And we can see a happy picture here of the farmyard animals. What on earth could this be about? I don't know. It says, that will never happen, at least not until these animals fly. What animals are we referring to? Right, so we've got lots of phrases like this in English about how impossible or how unlikely something is. You know, we'll often use it sarcastically, sort of hyperbolically, to say, oh, he'll clean his room when pigs fly, right? That's the expression. When hell freezes over is another one. That's the one I like to use. That's more dramatic, isn't it? Yeah, it says, when pigs fly refers to something that will never happen. This common quote is also a delightful visual gag, with movies often pairing the phrase alongside a graphic of a flying pig. Okay, maybe that happens. And we have a woman at a party, and what's she holding in her hand? I don't know. I can't really tell what that is. It says, it's a minor annoyance that spoils a celebration. What is it? A fly in the ointment, a reading of the Riot Act, A sandwich short of a picnic, a pound of flesh. Okay, so let's look at these in order. A fly in the ointment. Well, imagine if you've got an ointment, which is normally some kind of cream, right, that you would put on your skin, and you get a fly in it. It's like, there's a fly in the ointment. That's a bit annoying. It doesn't ruin it, but it's a minor annoyance. I think that's the right answer. Let's have a look at the other ones, though. We've got a reading of the Riot Act. Teachers often on their first day of class will read the Riot Act. No, it's to remind kids of the potential cost of their misbehaviour and what can happen, the potential consequences a lot of the time. So it's either like a warning or it could be a reprimand, right? So it could be that you're telling a group of people off and warning them that it mustn't happen again, right? A sandwich short of a picnic. I really like this expression because it's one of those very English sort of things that you wouldn't want to. What am I trying to say? We'll say something like he's got a screw loose or something, no? To say that someone's not quite right in the head, but I really like this one. He's a sandwich short of a picnic, no? He's not completely full. He's not completely sane, right? This person is a bit crazy, a bit simple, perhaps, right? Yeah, absolutely. A sandwich short of a picnic. He's not a full basket, you know. Anyway, a pound of flesh. A pound of flesh, when do we use this? A pound of flesh. So this is something that you are entitled to, right? I want my pound of flesh. But obviously it sounds very dramatic, and I guess, you know, it is. I'm not sure where it comes from exactly, but if you think about a pound of flesh, a pound is a mate of imperial measurement. That's quite a lot of meat, right? And flesh sounds like human meat. So it's like, I don't know, maybe it's something very horrible that you're demanding, but you have the right to it. So maybe it's a human life, maybe it's your firstborn child, maybe it comes from that actually, a pound of flesh, thinking about it. But babies weigh more than a pound. I don't know. My mind's wandering. I wonder if anyone knows the origin. Leave that in the comments if you do. But I think this one is a fly in the ointment, something that is a minor disappointment. It says, yes, flies in the ointment put a sour spin on a celebration. This is a common phrase. This common phrase is generally used when something is irritating or bittersweet. When something irritating or bittersweet happens during an otherwise exceptional occasion. Yeah, it doesn't ruin it. It's just kind of like, well, a minor annoyance. Something that's it was a slight imperfection, you know? And here we have a woman pulling a funny face. So what's this all about? It says, if I tell you that he's wet behind the ears, what am I actually saying? If you are wet behind the ears, he's an expert swimmer. He's a manipulative person. He's lacking experience. He is a treasured advisor. Fairly gruesome expression, this, if you think about it. And it comes from when a baby is first born and they haven't completely dried it yet. It's still wet behind the ears. I guess that's the last place a towel would get to if you're drying a baby, right? And they're still wet behind the ears. They've just been born. They're still covered in amniotic fluid, I think is the word, isn't it? I was just looking that up. Yeah, so it means that this person is lacking experience. They're basically a baby. They're newborn. And we'll probably see an explanation here. It says, this common phrase actually has its roots in human birth. When babies are born, they are wet. So if someone is wet behind the ears, they are totally inexperienced, just like a baby. Here we can see the sea and the horizon of the sea meeting the sky. What in the ocean? What word goes in the blank? Well, a drop in the ocean, a fish in the ocean, a wave in the ocean, a boy in the ocean. A boy, I'm assuming that people know what a boy is. I'm not sure if I know what the function of a buoy is. They're these floating plastic balls that you see in the sea. It used to be made of glass, of course, in the past, that you see as sort of decorations in shops and things now, hipster type places. Oh, what's in the ocean though? What's the expression here? I think it's a drop in the ocean, right? So it's something that has very little overall impact, because obviously the ocean has got billions of gallons of water. So one drop really isn't very significant. Let's see what explanation they give. Here it says, the phrase a drop in the ocean refers to a small amount that really won't make much of a difference. It's usually used to convey exasperation and frustration with what needs to be done. Right. Yeah, I suppose if somebody pays off a tiny amount of the debt, you owe €1 million and you pay off 100. That's a drop in the ocean, really. You're not really making any progress at all. It doesn't make a difference to the situation, does it? Okay, let's move on. And we have almost the same picture, but with sharks this time. Well, there you go. I captured his death there. When someone is in trouble and has no way of getting out, we use this phrase. What is it? She's one sandwich short of a picnic. No, we've spoken about that. And why does it have to be a woman, eh? What's the suggestion there? He's up the creek without a paddle. She's the pot calling the kettle black. And now a man again. He's a pretty kettle of fish. Well, a couple of things to explain here then. So, she's one sandwich short of a picnic we've mentioned. It means you're crazy, right? Basically. He's up the creek without a paddle. Creek, normally another word for a river. You hear it a lot in American and I think Australian programs and films. Definitely American, yeah, the creek. I think they're normally referring to a river. Maybe they're referring to the valley as well that the river is in. So obviously if you're up a river somewhere and you don't have a paddle, that's pretty bad. How are you going to get out of that situation, right? Is you're in trouble and there's no way of getting out. So that's the one I'm going to go for, I think, here. She's the pot calling the kettle black. When the pot is calling the kettle black, that is an expression which means that the person is being a hypocrite. Because, of course, if you think about pots and kettles and pans in the past, they were all black, right? Because they were, I guess, made out of iron, copper, I don't know, and they went black over time because of being used on the fire, I guess. The point was that all of the metal work that we had was generally black, right? So if the pot called the kettle black, it was being hypocritical. So if you accuse something of something that you are yourself, you're the pot calling the kettle black. He's a pretty kettle of fish. I don't know if I've heard pretty kettle of fish. I know that we say it's a whole other kettle of fish, we say, which means that it's completely different. That's got nothing to do with it. That's apples and oranges, you know. So yeah, he's up the creek without a paddle is clearly the correct answer. It says, if you are up the creek without a paddle, you are in serious trouble and you have no way of getting yourself out of the situation. It's used as a cautionary phrase about what can happen. Well, there you go. And a couple of hipsters here, or I don't know what they are. I guess, what are they representing? Retro, 1980s, 90s? What is this? What's this about? I don't know. It says, it refers to someone who might not have style, but they certainly have character. What is the phrase? They don't have style, but they have character. Well, he's much ado about nothing. I mentioned that earlier, and it's was very similar to another phrase that we saw. He's moving the goalposts. He's a diamond in the rough. He makes virtue. He makes a virtue of necessity. This is the first one I've had to think about a little bit. Right, so much ado about nothing is a bit like a tempest in a teapot, right? A mountain out of a molehill. It's not really that important, so that's got nothing to do with this. He's moving the goalpost. Now, this one's really interesting. Obviously, if you imagine a game of football, and I don't see how this could happen really, but well, yeah, I guess so. When you play football as kids and you use jumpers or whatever for goalposts, and you want to make the other team's goal bigger or make your own goal smaller so that it's harder for the other team to beat you, we say that he's moving the goalposts. He's making the situation unfair in his favour, right? Okay, so that's what moving the goalposts is. Don't think that's anything to do with the sentence we have here. He's a diamond in the rough. Now, obviously, a diamond in the rough, when you mine diamonds, I think they're sort of encrusted into rocks and things, right? They have to be extracted. They have to be polished, I guess, more than anything. You have to sand them down and polish them and whatnot and cut them into shape. So you have potential, obviously, if you're a diamond in the rough, because obviously you're a diamond. But yeah, you're lacking that sort of polishing. You need to be molded into the perfect version of yourself, I suppose. So, yeah, that would sound like a person who doesn't dress well but has character, right? You know, there's somebody who maybe you could say they have style, but they're lacking dress sense. I don't know what it is. You know, some people that just look like if you put a suit on them, they'd wear it well. Even though they're dressed terribly. Yeah, I think so. So that could be a diamond in the rough, I think. He makes a virtue of necessity. No. To make a virtue of necessity might be, for example, in a bad situation, in a potentially bad situation, you turn it into a positive situation, right? So I don't know, maybe you don't have enough money to buy a car, so you start walking everywhere and get in shape. That's a good thing. I don't know. I think he's a diamond in the rough, right? It says, yeah, diamonds in the rough might not appear to be all that great at first, but their incredible character always shines through, even if their exterior happens to be exceptionally rough, right? Literally rough, okay? All right, let's move on. And we have here what looks like a mother and daughter. Two heads are better than one. What does this phrase mean? This one's really easy. You can eat faster with two heads. When you use more of your brain, you can be smarter. Always get advice from people who think like you. It's helpful to have a second opinion when working out a problem. Yeah, absolutely. I think this is true as well. Even though I like working alone, it is very useful to have friends or people around you that you can bounce ideas off. So two heads are better than one. It's helpful to have a second opinion when working out a problem. Yeah, no doubt about that one. We've got a guy putting a bandage over his eye here, so God knows what's going on. Let's find out, I guess. It says, if you turn a blind eye, you are doing this. Yeah, I think we've probably seen this before. You're telling the truth. No. You're keeping your eyes open and your mouth shut, right? Observing everything but not commenting. You're pretending not to notice. You're trying not to be vain. No, if you turn a blind eye, you could say, I don't know, the police can see people, I don't know, perhaps not socially distancing as much as they should. And the police, you know, generally speaking, will turn a blind eye to some sort of misdemeanors, you know, things that are not so important. You know, if they see you beating someone to death in the street, they'll probably intervene. But if they see you shouting at your friend and you're not really bothering anyone else, they'll probably just turn a blind eye, you know. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, pretending not to notice, definitely. All right, let's have a look at the next picture. We can see a television proposing to a dinosaur. Interesting. And it says, real events can sometimes be more bizarre than imaginary ones. What common phrase conveys this? I think I know it. Truth is stranger than fiction. I mean, it's just a literal phrase, isn't it? You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth. Yeah, as Jack Nicholson said in, what is it, Some Good Men. Is that the name of the film? I think. I always get it mixed up. I think it's called Some Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Yeah, absolutely. Your unicorns aren't really all that impressive. What the hell is that? I don't know. It's a big fish tail. Are they expressions? Maybe they are. We'll find out, I guess, as the quiz goes on. Truth is stranger than fiction. Yeah, real events can often be more bizarre than fictional ones. Yeah, very good. All right, and here we can see a man sitting on the top of a mountain. Oh my God! I dreamt about climbing a mountain last night, and it's a recurring nightmare I have. I have a lot of recurring nightmares. Haven't been having them recently, but yeah, I dreamt I'd climbed to a mountain just like this one, sitting on the peak like that, and there was no space, and I wasn't climbing with a rope. And for some reason, I was a woman. That's not normally what happens. But yeah, and I just felt like jumping off. I was terrified. Everything was shaking. God, yeah. So interpret that one for me, people. Apart from the woman bit, that's just a coincidence, I think. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I think this one's fairly obvious. What does this common travel phrase mean? You need to walk in someone else's shoes. No, that means that you need to understand someone's situation before you judge them, I think. All journeys must come to an end sometime. No. You need to start your journey by taking a single step. Going by land will keep you more grounded than traveling by boat. I'm not really sure that question is worded very well. They could have made it a bit more complicated. But yeah, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. It's basically about micromanaging your problems. You've got a big problem. Well, you need to break it down into small steps that are manageable. No bite-sized chunks, we sometimes say. But yeah, that's how I would have worded that. Let's see the explanation it gives. It says, this common phrase, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, actually comes from a Chinese proverb that indicates that if you want to accomplish a feat, you have to make that first move, which, you know, I think would have been a more interesting way of expressing it in the options. But anyway, let's continue. And we can see a man here, and what's he doing? He's stepping over a bear trap by the looks of things. So it says, this common phrase means that you intend to avoid something completely. What is it? I wouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. Right, that's an interesting expression, right? Because when you buy a horse, you need to look at its teeth, right? You can see how old it is. You can see what condition it's in. I think you can tell something about its health by looking at its teeth. But if it's given to you, if you don't have to pay for it, then don't look at it. You know, if you're being given something for free, appreciate it. You know, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. We often say a barge pole as well. And yeah, if you wouldn't touch something with a pole, it means you don't want to go near it, which means you want to avoid it. So I think that's what I'm going to say. I wouldn't let him pull the wool over your eyes. That means someone is cheating you. If you have the wool pulled over your eyes, well, wool, obviously, like this jumper, if that's pulled over your eyes, you can't see. Somebody is cheating you, right? Somebody is taking advantage of you. I wouldn't put that past her. Now, if you wouldn't put something past someone, it means that you don't believe it is impossible that they would do something so terrible. You know, I don't think she stole it, but I wouldn't put it past her. She's mental. So yeah, I think this one's clearly, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Let's continue. And here we can see a chicken walking in somebody's back garden. What does it mean when we say chickens came home to roost? Ah, yes, maybe you've heard this expression, maybe you haven't. It's a bit of a strange one. The bad things that you have done in the past will come back to haunt you. If you save your money, you'll see more of it in the future. Always follow animals on the trail. Teach a man to cook a chicken and he'll eat for his whole life. So this is a warning, right? I'm guessing like a lot of animals, where they are born, they go back to breed there, right? So chickens, when they roost, I think that's when they breed, right? That's when they mate and lay eggs. So they'll go back to where they were born, like salmon swimming up the river, the crazy bastards. They go hundreds of miles, killing themselves in the process, getting eaten by bears just to lay their salmony eggs up there in the mountains somewhere. But anyway, the bad things that you have done in the past will come back to haunt you. Yeah, absolutely. It's a sort of proverb. It's a warning to someone that basically the bad things you do now are going to have consequences. Somewhere down the line, the chickens will come home to roost. It's one I like, actually, because I think it's absolutely true. You can't do something that goes against your moral fibre and live with it. You can't. Crime and punishment, eh? Yeah. You try murdering someone. You won't sleep at night. If you save your money, you'll see more of it in the future. Always follow animals on the trail. Teach a man to cook a chicken. Now, there's a proverb or an expression about fish. Teach a man to fish and you'll feed him for life. Give him a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach him to fish and he'll eat for life. No, the bad things you have done will come back to haunt you, absolutely. Dostoevsky knew all about that. And here we have twins having breakfast together. Two something in a pod. What word goes in the blank? Two spacemen in a pod. They might be in a pod of some kind, I suppose. Two blossoms in a pod. Blossom is the flower that you get on fruit trees. Peas or humans. Two humans in a pod. It's two peas in a pod, because a pod is what we call what would you call it? The case, the cocoon thing that peas grow in. You know, you get lots of peas in a pod. It means two people that are very alike. You know, they're very similar. They're two peas in a pod. They're identical. You know, and we don't usually use it for identical twins, but sort of best friends who are very similar in character or something like that. Okay, there is a woman here who appears to be telling us to be quiet. So, what's going on here? It's when you keep something a secret. What's the common phrase? It says, store it in the ocean, keep it under your hat, leave it by the side of the road, whisper it only to those you must. Whisper it only to those you must. I don't know what that expression is. Is that keeping a secret? I don't know. Only tell people who need to know it, right? I guess. So it's not exactly keeping something a secret. Store it in the ocean. I'm not sure. Is that a thing people say? I don't know. Leave it by the side of the road. Just sounds literal again. Yeah, you keep something under your hat if you need to keep it a secret because, well, people are not going to look under your hat. They might be more likely if they're going to search you to search your pockets, they'll frisk your body, but maybe they won't look under your hat. Yeah, it says keeping something a secret. The origins of the phrase are a little murky. Yeah, it's not very clear. It most likely comes from a trick that medieval archers used to keep things safe during rainstorms. Right, yeah, if you keep something safe, keep it under your hat. Yeah, probably. Something like that, right? Oh, we've got some cut fish in a bucket here. What the hell could this be? It says, a different kettle of fish. Ah, yes, I've mentioned this already. I imagine some of you will have heard it because it's a very strange one. It's one that comes up quite a bit in classes, in books and things. What does this fun phrase mean? It says, fish that look delicious but are deadly? No. Someone that has plenty of fish to share? No. We need to take care of endangered oceanic animals. Shut up, Greta. Someone or something that is not like the rest. Yeah, it's a different kettle of fish. Oh, yeah, it's a completely different story. Something that's different, yeah. We are using a folksy phrase to refer to someone or something that isn't like the rest. It's usually used as a cautionary phrase to tread lightly. Yeah, tread lightly. Be careful, eh? Be careful. Okay, we can see a very fashionably dressed woman here, I guess. What fruity phrase means that you're upsetting the status quo? You're upsetting the apple cart. I think this came up in a video the other day. You're polishing the peach. You're stomping around the blackberry patch. You're peeling the orange. No, an apple cart, a cart full of apples. If you upset it, it's literally upset, right? So the old meaning, the somewhat antiquated meaning of to upset means to turn something over, to tip it over, tip it upside down. If you upset the apple cart, you know, you upset the order of things. Absolutely, the status quo. If you take charge when you're not the boss, you're definitely upsetting the apple cart. You know, it says upsetting the apple cart refers to disturbing the status quo or ushering in a new era of doing things like politicians always promise us. It can be used in both a negative and a positive fashion depending on the context. Yeah, you an anarchist, you against the system, man. I guess a lot of us are now, aren't we? Anarchists. Or at least that's the way we're being portrayed. Okay. And we can see an old man enjoying a hug from his from a young lady. Okay. Again, he's in a wheelchair. This funky phrase refers to loving someone no matter what their flaws are. What is it? Plus their peg leg, monsters included, warts and all. Warts and all. Snores and saws. Right. Peg leg is a wooden leg. So, including their little wooden leg. Monsters included, with their monsters, with their demons, I suppose you could say. Warts and all. Warts are marks that you would get on your face, like little, I guess they're caused by bacterial skin infections, aren't they? Warts. I think it's bacteria, is it? Warts? Who knows? And snores and saws. Snores, the noise you make with sleep apnea, and sores are open lesions on the skin. When you love somebody no matter what, despite their flaws, you love them, warts and all is the expression. Let's see if they agree with me. They do. Correct answer. Everyone has some unattractive qualities or attributes. Nobody is exempt. If you're able to tolerate or love certain people, despite their many flaws, you love them, warts and all. That's nice. Let's carry on. And we can see a pot of boiling water here. What is going on here? The phrase, a watched pot never boils, gets used often. What does it mean? Okay, so imagine you're watching a pot of water and it never seems to boil, does it? If you're watching it, it just doesn't, the time just doesn't pass. If you walk away for a few minutes though, everything just, it all boils over. So, when you're waiting for something to happen, it can seem to take forever. Cooking is a difficult and sometimes tedious task. Always use stainless steel pots. Hey, Sheffield. So that your water boils properly. Water only boils at a specific temperature. I'm not even going to bore you with the explanation here. Of course, that's what it means. We've got some pictures of paper boats here on, well, what's going on? Leadership is often the root of an organization's failure. What common phrase expresses this? Sludge rolls downhill. A true leader understands their role. A fish rots from the head down. Find time to smell the flowers and your company will grow. I like the first option there, sludge rolls downhill. Well, sludge, I wouldn't say it rolls, you'd say it slides, I think, right? Sludge is just any sort of viscous liquid. It makes it sound sort of horrible, the word sludge, doesn't it? But, yeah, I guess it does. I don't see how that would relate to this exactly. A true leader understands their role. That just sounds like a very literal phrase, right? That they understand that they're the leader and they need to understand what that entails. A fish rots from the head down, so putrefaction. Yeah, putrefaction starts in the head of a fish, right? That's where it starts to rot first. Starts in the head and works down. Yeah, so leadership is often the root of an organization's failure. Yeah, if you're not a good leader, if the head starts to rot, the rest is going to rot. The organization is going to fail ultimately if the boss, the leader, isn't functioning well. Find time to smell the flowers is an expression which means take time out to relax, you know, take some time off from making YouTube videos and stuff like that. So yeah, fish rots from the head down. The saying, a fish rots from the head down, is a colourful way to express that often dysfunction starts at the leadership level. It's often used to describe dysfunctional or toxic businesses. Oh dear. Okay, I'm going to try and get through these. We've been going for nearly an hour. We've still got 8 left. It says, you can't have your cake and eat it too. What does this phrase mean? I never knew. For years I knew what it meant, but I didn't really understand it because I thought, yeah, you can have your cake and eat it, because I was thinking like have it and then eat it. But no, obviously you can either have it or you can eat it and then you don't have it anymore, right? So you can't have the best of both worlds, essentially. If you eat your cake, you need to exercise. No, you can't have it both ways, right? These are two mutually exclusive things. You can have the cake or you can eat it. You can't do both. Yeah, that's what it means. You need to share your cake with other people. If you bake a cake, if you bake the cake, you can eat it. No, it's that one. There we go. Let's move on. We can see a swimming pool here, and it says, go with the flow when you're in a new place. What phrase advises this? Yeah, I think I know what this means. Obviously, you can't impose your culture and your customs on a new place, right? You need to see what's going on. You need to fit in. Mimicry is the sincerest form of flattery. So somebody that is copying you means that they admire you. Swim with the fishes to warmer waters. Travel makes the heart sing. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, very good. Yeah, behave like the Romans when you're in Rome. Eat pizza and stuff. Okay, so we can see a muddy track here. What's going on? It says, fill in the blank here. It says, when the going gets tough, the tough get... Who sang that? Otis Redding, was it? I don't know. Anyway, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, right? Obviously, I mean, you can just logically hear that, right? And it's obviously when the going gets tough, the going is the track, the course, the ground, right? The going. When it becomes tough, when the terrain gets difficult, tough people will start moving, right? People who can get through it will start to get through it. That's when you'll see them. No? Obviously. Here's one you may or may not know. We can see a tape measure there, just about, and it says the whole 9 yards. Yards are, again, an imperial unit of measurement. What does this common phrase mean? Everything? A win in football? A yard of cloth? To go bowling? No, it means everything. I want everything. I don't just want some of it. I want all of it. I want the whole 9 yards, right? I want everything. I want it now. I want everything now. We can see a man shouting at a woman. Is this a boss shouting at an employee? I don't know. Let's see. What do we call it when you make someone give or tell you something that they don't want to give you? Swim across the English Channel. What? Get blood out of a stone. Travel to the moon and back. Wrestle an octopus in the deep. You can't get blood out of a stone. It's like getting blood out of a stone, getting this person to give you information. Yeah, I don't know. Absolutely. Yeah, like getting help at the council or something like that. It's like getting blood out of a stone. Yeah, definitely. Let's move on. We can see a poodle. What does the poodle represent, apart from intelligence in dogs? The common phrase, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, gets tossed around a lot. What does it mean? Dogs are not as bright as people. When people are set in their ways, you can't change them. You can't get them to change. Only puppies can learn new tricks, so don't even try. If you want to teach someone a trick, you need to give them a treat. No, old people are set in their ways and you can't change them. You can't make them change. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, you know. They're too accustomed to the way they're living already. No, so you can't really teach them so easily. And we can see some people thinking. They've got a thought cloud above them. What's going on here? It says, finally, it's time to fill in the blank. Is only as strong as its weakest link. What is the word? Yeah, this comes from, of course, if you think of a chain, it has lots of links, are all holding together, and if one is weak, the whole chain breaks. So the weakest link is the definition of the strength, really, of the entire chain. Yeah, it's a lovely metaphor, isn't it? Yeah, wonderful. Okay, and your score is 100%. We finished. Thank God for that. Goodbye.